Good morning, everyone. So, do you guys remember our model, reset, restart, and relearn? Are we doing it together? Are we relearning and restarting? Yes? On the second slide, that's my second most important part. Failure is not an option because, as I mentioned to you at the first meeting, if you fail, I have failed. And I don't like to fail. That is not an option. So I want to make sure you know that what I'm telling you and what I'm teaching you, it is go back to the basics and how to start your business, restart your business, or rethink your business. And the reason being is because some of us been in business for a couple of years. Some of us are brand new. Some of us just have no idea how to do it, what to do, or just going down the wrong path of not having the right training and the right support. So this was, next slide. So, no, that's another one. Did I miss one? I didn't. Okay, that's fine. So here's my question. Did you invest in yourself? Any of you? Did you? Because what we were talking in our past, to make sure you actually have a personal investment that goes with time and money, right? So while I didn't give you any homework, my question to you is, did anybody follow what I'm quote unquote preaching, what I'm telling you to do? And that was number one. What is my number one emphasis? How to get your business started. Anybody? Sphere database, Sphere database. Why? Because that is your bare bone basic where people you know. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have leads. But don't start chasing leads without you know how to have your basics. And that is basically how you do your business. Because if your leads don't turn out, you have no referral base. You have no idea how to stay in touch with your clients. There is nothing you're doing that actually is productive other than you running around trying to sell a house. That is not how you conduct business, in my opinion, not for the long term. Maybe on this market it sounds great, but if you don't have the basic knowledge of how to harvest the database from people who actually know you, people actually who like you, then chasing the leads, sure, that's part number two, but that is not what's going to actually give you business in the long term, right? May I have the next slide, please? So this actually we have seen, and a couple of them we already have gone through. How to build your database, we're going to touch base on that. Prospecting, open houses, market knowledge, and how to promote or invest in yourself. Some of them are going to touch base again because I don't feel like that you guys have done a particularly great job because I haven't seen anybody holding up a piece of paper with your daily schedules, with your databases saying, by the way, I have 100 people in my database, what's next? Does anybody remember what I said what to do after you built your database? Anyone? Investing in yourself, what I advised everybody to go to Target and spend what? $10, $15 to get postcards or any kind of cards, announcements, to have a handwritten notes to your clients announcing that, guess what? Look at me, I'm in business. I'm a professional, you can rely on my advice, right? Has anybody done that? At least halfway. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's a good start. Make sure that you do that. Please make sure that you do that. So we kind of touch base on prospecting, but we haven't finished. I like to add a couple of things to your database because I know some of you are brand new in a business, and a lot of times you're going to say, oh my God, I do not know who to talk to. Not a problem. I had a lecture, quote unquote, on an open houses. When people come to your open house, right, most likely you can build a relationship with them. You can follow up with them. You can put them in your database, right? What about other agents? Does it sound crazy? I am lacking I'm seriously lacking that idea. I missed that. Why do you think it's on it? Because I know somebody in a room whose team leader paid a lot of attention, building relationship with other agents and getting a lot of referrals. I'm not one of them. I told you, I'm going to put up my hand. I have failed because I forgot. I didn't. I was too busy, right? So make sure you build a relationship with other agents. So how do we do that? Have you noticed that trend where people moving to and moving from? If you look up any websites for moving companies like Mayflower Moving, look at the area. It all points to Raleigh, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Cary, North Carolina. So the question is, where are those people moving from? Obvious answer is out of state, sure, but where, right? I see a huge influx of people from California. What do you think the average house price in California, in San Francisco, is? More than 300,000, right? Maybe $1 million plus. So when somebody bought those, let's say 6-8 years ago, for 600, now they're selling it at 1.8 million, you think they have some equity. Would you like to know the agent who they're dealing with? For them to think of you as an expert, what? Professional, to refer business to you. Do you think other agents reaching out to them? My guess would be no. Probably not. Why? Because we are too busy doing what? Chasing leads instead of building relationships. So I want to make sure that you have a right mindset, right? You have a right mindset, because if you don't, you're going to be caught up of, oh my God, it has been a month, I haven't sold a house. Okay. I think in about 6 months, a year from now, it will be a very important conversation to know why. But the most important part is, what have you done to give yourself that enhanced opportunity to do so, right? All of you, or at least most of you, are in a team. The team structure is the best structure you can have, because your team leader is paying for the leads you have. But if you don't know how to talk to them, if you don't know how to handle them, then what are the expectations, right? Very low, at least from my end. Secondly, what about renters? Anybody have renters? I have a quick story to tell you. So when I was with Coldwell Banker in 1995, I didn't have a lot of business because I get in business in 1994, right? And I was licensed in 93. So I didn't know anything about how to do business. I didn't know anything about how to get business, because I mentioned to you, I had no training. So what I started doing, because I wanted to earn another $50 or $75 or $100, at least something better than nothing, right? I started to help renters. And most agents, back then they were teaching, do not deal with renters because they're not buying houses. Make sure you have a paying client, right? Well, those renters were not paying me anything, and you couldn't receive a commission. Even if I get $50, I had to give it to my broker in charge with a 50-50 split, so they don't even pay for my gas. But apartment complexes back then, guess what they pay? They pay referral fees to agents. $150, $200, depending on the lease, depending how expensive it was, right? So I had about 25 renters placed in a year. So I made the extra 2, 3, 4 grand. I was very, very happy because it was just more money. And guess what I did? I kept in a database and stayed in touch with them, right? So my broker in charge at that time made an example of me. Don't do anything like Thomas does. He's running around with renters while you guys are selling houses. That is not how you do real estate. So I felt like an idiot, right? And it wasn't very pleasant. Well, guess what happened next year? Those renters have bought about 12 houses or 14 houses, whatever it was. You know what happened to next year in a meeting? Take an example of Thomas, because actually he got it right. So didn't you just tell me that last year I was an idiot? Right? So as I said, there's a different ways you can enhance your chances. And people who are actually renting an apartment for $800, $900, $1,000, they're going to be very, very thankful for you to help them to find a house, because most of them, they don't even know they can. And even if they buy a smaller home, remember, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Because I had clients who bought a $130,000 house, right? But they get better jobs, and 8 years later, they bought a $700,000 house. Huge jump. It does happen. But if I never taken a renter, it would have never had the opportunity. Right? So I think it's very, very important for you to know that. And before we switch to the next one, please read this. Your database is your golden egg. It's a metaphor, but it is. It is a golden egg. Because without your database, you're just an agent who's chasing leads, nothing more. That means you're a dime a dozen. Nothing unique, nothing good about you, except you're running around chasing leads. That is not how I want to conduct my business personally. So what happens when somebody from your database, because you're so awesome, now you're ready, you put everybody in your database and you're calling them, you send them notes. What happens when somebody refers business to you? What do you do? Anybody? Yes, very good. Yes. But first, of course, you call the people, right?
Oh, I call, yes.
Okay. All right, so next slide, please. So thank your referral source immediately. Obviously, call the people first, but thank them immediately because they need to know how much you appreciate them, right? Make sure they get the contact information from whomever it is. Sometimes my friends leave or clients leave me referral messages, and I have no idea who the person is. Sometimes I don't understand who it is. I know nothing about them, so if I can catch them on the right time, I like to ask a little bit of information. Are you working with them? Is it your friend? Is it family? Who knows? Because your approach also should be somehow to relate to them, right? Add them to your database, right? And it doesn't mean that you know their address because they could be coming from God knows where. But database meaning at least their email, phone number, and their name, right? To make sure you can follow up with them. You call, clarify, classify, and qualify. What do I mean by classifying them? I know you know that. Yes. What does it mean that you need to classify your referral? Anybody?
See how soon are they ready?
A hot lead, a nurture lead, a watch lead.
We're going to get there. So all of you are correct. It's not the right answer. In my opinion, I classify them to know whether they're going to be moving next year, next month, or next week. Because your follow-up, according to their time frame, should be as such. Right? Should be as such. If somebody's moving next month, you probably don't want to call them up the day before they move. How about if somebody's local? Right? How about, what do you do if somebody's local? In my opinion, you should set up a time immediately to meet with them, regardless of their time frame, right? Because you need to see how great you are and earn their trust. So even if somebody says, I'm not ready to look at houses, that's not a problem. Would you like to meet me? Because I think it would be a good idea for us to discuss what you're going to be doing next year or 6 months from now. Because I need to be prepared for you. I'm taking initiative. I need to be prepared to make sure I can serve them better. You think anybody going to say, no, I don't want it. I want somebody unprepared. I'm sure it happens, but at least you can convince them that you are actually a good agent who take their time and a professional, right? Then you need to put it on your calendar how and when to schedule a follow-up, right? Why is it important? Without follow-up, we are out of business, right? So you have to follow up with them. And after you actually have scheduled that, I like your idea, but that's what I said actually about your database. What do we do with our $15 spent at Target? We write them a handwritten note. Why? Because it's personal, right? To both of them, the referring source and the person you will refer to, right? I think it's important. Emails are great, don't get me wrong. But who does that? No one. Nobody writes notes anymore because it takes too long, right? You guys want to know a little secret? Everybody can laugh at me. I have a horrible handwriting. Sometimes I cannot even read my own handwriting. It's that bad. Might be dyslexic. But I find somebody who can actually write me a note, exactly what I want. and it looks good. However, it happened to me a couple of times when I sent a nice note, I meet the clients, and I start writing what they're looking for, and they're looking at it. It says, your handwritten note was much better handwriting. It was like, yeah, it wasn't me, but we do appreciate it. So people notice, but once again, it's a good laugh, right? Just make sure you follow what you're supposed to be doing with your own business, right? Because if you don't follow up, they're going to forget you exist, right? So at least you're given a good chance for them to remember you. So we're going to go into plan and focus. This was literally just a recap from last week. So plan and focus. What do you do to achieve your goals? Well, you know one thing, you build your database, right? But focusing on one goal at a time, in my opinion, is very vital. I am not the best to multitask. And the reason I don't multitask because I lose focus. If you lose focus on one thing you do very well, then that thing is going to become at 40%, 50% of your best. Is that good enough, you think? Not in my book. So making sure you know that you do one thing at a time. If it's an open house, do that. If it's a follow-up, do that. If it's prospecting, do that. But focus on that task. Don't tackle 9 things in 2 hours because it's not going to work. I tried, it doesn't work. And the reason I know that because I'm extremely efficient with a lot of mistakes. So I know when I have to write something very quickly, then I read that as like, oh crap, that is not exactly what I wanted to say. There is a typo. I forget to touch base with somebody. Don't do that. So if you're technologically advanced, you can type up what you like to do. I bought at Walmart a little booklet. I write it down what I want to do, just cross them out. To me, it works. It is different for everybody, right? I'm not saying that one method is better than the other. All I'm saying is do it. Make sure you have it planned and make sure you write them down what you're doing. And you need to stick with that plan, right? Because remember, we talked about what are we doing every day? Anybody remembers? We hold ourselves accountable and we're going to circle back and circle back and circle back. We're going to hold ourselves accountable from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. What do? We have lunch, we have coffee, but most importantly, we prospect every day. It's an everyday activity, not monthly. Can anybody tell me what's the best time to prospect when you have to actually call people? Anyone? Great. I succeeded. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Yes. But the answer is yes. That is the best time because people usually at home that would pick up their phone, right? So I think it's important for you to know that. So if you want to go to the gym, schedule it before 5 or after 7, not between, because then you have a test to schedule, right? You want to take a 2-hour lunch break? I wouldn't recommend it, but if you need to blow off some steam, you do that. When you actually don't have something on a schedule on that particular day, to make sure you stay proactive, right? So when you tackle too many things, someone is going to slide by because you're just too busy, discouraged, whatever that means, right? Just making sure you stay in track. So, because we plan and focus, and it's also circle back to number 1 and number 2, know your market. Everybody, please learn your market. I can tell you examples after the examples, but I will tell you something what happened to me yesterday. I had a client who I have not ignored. She's my past client, and she's casually looking. We were about to make an offer on a house. She decided not to. And I just get too busy with stuff, right? As I said, I make mistakes. I get too busy with stuff. So she sent me a listing that she want to look at, right? When I looked at it, I know it wasn't her best choices or your favorite, but she desperately wanted to look at it. So it was in Holly Springs, it was in Sunset Ridge. Who knows Sunset Ridge? Great. Did you guys know that Sunset Ridge have more than one section? Well, you do that because you know the area, but most of the agents wouldn't. That's my whole point. So we looked at that on a golf course side, and those houses are much older than the other side where there is no golf course, right? So the house was great, and I say, by the way, I know you like the half-an-acre lot, but these houses are too traditional for you. Why don't we go across the street and take a look at some of the other custom houses? Now, by the time we did that, it was dark. Did you know that you have to go through a couple of little bridges? And a lot of those trees are actually now lit up with LED lights. So there was nothing available on that side, but guess what? I just pulled up right away because I knew there's a different section. I pulled up houses in their price point, exactly what they fit, that was sold 3 months ago before we started looking. So we drove through, we went to the house. And the first verse she says, oh my God, it's magical. The neighborhood is magical. That's where I want to live. So if you don't know that neighborhood, what you're going to be doing? Driving around, trying to find the house because now your buyer is driving you where to go? Versus you telling them, I'm the expert, follow me, let me show you what you need to see. And that house was the perfect match. So I think it's important for you to understand your market, because if you don't, once again, you're going to be the agent who's running around endlessly showing houses to clients who have no clue what they want. And if you don't know what they want, if they don't know what they want, then you have a complete disaster, right? So preview houses. That's the part of it, right? Because you need to know the neighborhoods and you need to preview the houses. Later on, we're going to go into some construction practices. It's important for you to know and understand. But make sure you preview the houses, because you need to know if somebody telling you they're looking for more transitional style, what is the question you ask, right? Right? Why is that? What exactly you're looking for? Is it a kitchen? Is elimination of the living room converted into a office, home office? So a lot of things you need to know and need to understand to make sure you can serve your clients better. Knowing your market is also knowing the neighborhoods. Even if you don't have time, even if you don't have time to look at, well, I hope you do, but if you don't have time to preview homes, do you think when you go to your next appointment, you go home, you can actually swing by in neighborhood, you can actually take a look and you can put up on MLS. Now you know it's from 1970s, selling between 300 and 350. There were 6 sales there. Last year, there's currently nothing active, right? Maybe it seems irrelevant to you today. But what about if you get your past client or your new client who want to look in a neighborhood and looking for houses that are in more mature neighborhoods under 350? What you going to tell them right off the bat? Oh, let me look at the neighborhoods. Let me look in MLS because I know nothing about the area. So I really have to look. But they already looked at Zillow. So you serve absolute no purpose to them. But if you tell them, by the way, are you thinking about that neighborhood off of XYZ Road that was built in the 70s with great mature trees? It's in the 300s. I've seen a couple of houses. 6 of them have sold last year. Is that the type of neighborhood you're referring to? Or I'm not familiar with the neighborhood, but I like what I'm hearing. That's why you need to know, and that's why you need to be an expert, whatever you do. Understand construction, new and old, vital, right? None of us are flawless. Everything is changing, right? But have a basic knowledge of construction practices, what to look for, and how they build, right? It doesn't mean you're not going to have surprises. I just had one this morning. But you try to always prevent, so you don't have 25 surprises, you only have 1 surprise, right? And you learn about it, you correct it, and you move on. But if you don't understand construction practices, if you don't understand, for example, siding, or don't understand what arrow had what issues, we're going to get into it a little bit later, then I think you will have a problem long term. So I know that every team leader, rightfully so, keen on scripts. Do you guys know why? Because none of you have to know how to talk to different buyers, sellers, whatever, right? Because you guys don't know. And it's okay. It's completely okay. That's the reason I said relearn, reset. Because if you have no habits, that's easy to build on. If you have bad habits, it's harder to break. But you need to actually know scripts. and you need to understand who to talk to, why, and how. And because of the scripts, I have a great surprise for everybody. I have an honor to introduce a phenomenal agent who's a part of a team and who have done scripts, who have done extremely well in business, because he plans, he focuses, he learns every single day, and that's exactly what needs to be done. So it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and my colleague, Jonathan Edwards, who's going to come and talk to you guys about scripts and also how to conduct your business, being 5 years in a business and being extremely successful.
How are you guys doing today? Great, great. You guys enjoying being buyer agents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. I know, give you a little background about myself. I'm from the area. I grew up in Cary. So my first job, have you guys ever seen the movie Boiler Room? Wolf of Wall Street? I'll tell you guys right now, if you watch those movies, don't watch it for, I would say don't watch it for the actors, but watch what they do in scripts and things like that. My first job was working at Merrill Lynch, and I bought a big booklet of names to call, and people were cussing me out left and right. But I got better and better and better. Did I succeed in the business? No, I didn't succeed in the business. But it taught me a lot about life. It taught me how to get a tougher skin, and it taught me how to talk to people. When I first got to the business, I worked with guys that were managing $500 million, $1 billion worth of assets. They were top 1% in the nation for what they were doing. And they all joked with me after the fact, like, we didn't think you were going to make it because you could have talked to anybody, And the reason I was able to talk to people was I started doing the phone calls and just getting beat up left and right, So I know your team leaders, they give you scripts to work with. I look at the script as just something to build your core. It's something that needs to become second nature to you, and then you can tweak it to fit your personality or fit the personality of the person you're speaking to. When you guys call, do you guys do you guys notice like where the person is from, or do you guys try to dig into that? Like why, with the leads you get, like, do you guys get Zillow leads? Right. So what I do is I try to ask questions without asking questions. So when somebody calls me about a house, I know 99% of the time they're not going to buy that house. Thomas can tell you that. They're not going to buy that house. And when Thomas was talking about you chasing leads, what you need to do is start chasing relationships. You need to start telling people like, okay, and you'll get to the point when you're going looking at homes, you're going to know, like, I know that neighborhood. They'll ask, why do you think this house is not selling? I'll look at it. And the reason why I sold so many homes is because I talked myself out of so many deals by basically telling the people, this is not the right house for you, and this is why. Somebody called me about a house just 2 days ago, said, hey, this house is priced $100,000 less. It's perfect for us. I looked at it, I said, yeah, it's right next to Wade Avenue. Nobody wants to live next to Wade Avenue. Kind of break it down to them. You want to let them know that you're going to be there. In Merrill Lynch, we say you want to be the essential partner. You want to be their essential partner. You want to be the person that they trust with becoming, your client. Because all those people that I had as cold leads, they became my sphere. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to gradually get the free leads you're getting from the team to become your sphere later, because they're going to start telling their parents, they're going to start telling their relatives about you and how you looked out for them. And next thing you know, do you guys do different splits with teams? Like if you have a referral come in, you get a higher split versus it coming through the team. You're going to start getting more of those. The next thing you know, you're going to start getting listings for the team, because those people that were buyers 3 or 4 years ago, now they're selling a house. Like Thomas said, they're going from a $200,000 home to a $450,000 home. So guess what? They're going to come back to you for getting that house. I don't know how your team works with that, but you'll be seeing more of an asset to your team leader, because the team leader sees that this guy or this girl is building a business within my business, and I don't want this person to leave. Because the whole thing about being a buyer's agent, Thomas could tell you, a lot of agents outside tell me, why are you still on the team? Because you can do so well with your sphere. But like Thomas and I talk about, I don't want those headaches of dealing with people. And I mean, I like selling homes, but I like building relationships. And I feel that if I become a team leader, it goes from relationships to a number for me, because I don't have the time. Marti can tell you she's been in business for how many years, and she knows that she has systems where her clients in the past might say she's not as personal with me, but they see her on TV, they see her building, like we know why. And I've had clients that were, I've had leads, people that were my internet leads that when I left my old team, came to my new team, they came right over with me, you know, because they said I wasn't doing business with Keller Williams, or I wasn't doing business with the Clark team, I was doing business with you, you know?
So, yes, so can you please elaborate on scripts, because you are a master of scripts, because I know how much you love calling people, how good you are at it. That's the reason I wanted you to come and talk to them, because I think everybody has an issue with calling people you don't know.
Yeah.
And one of the issues is rejection, right? What I have recommended to many of you, record yourself, how stupid you sound. When you make a phone call, then correct. Do it again, correct. Again, repeat, repeat, repeat until you become an expert. So I know Jonathan was one of the best who does that.
Yeah.
So can you please elaborate a little bit on that?
I will. So what I try to do is when I do call, you enunciate, you make sure that you're clear on the telephone. When I first came out of grad school, I was talking like I was still in grad school to some people. And my brother-in-law, he said, "John, I love you and everything." Like, yeah. He says, "Like hearing you talk, if you lose my money, I know I can't beat you up because you sound like you're a big guy," something like that. So I said, "Oh, okay, let me switch my voice up just a little bit. Let me become a little bit more neutral." You know, I was born in the Midwest, so I never really picked up a Southern accent. So I have like that newscast voice. So let me start doing that more often. So I started doing that. The next thing, just with the scripts, is that you have to do it multiple times. You know, you have to practice with people like yourself, your teammates, but then also, it's also great to get out there in the field and you're talking to people. I was telling Thomas, like, I would look at my numbers. How many people I'm calling a day? And my goal was to get between 2 and, I wanted to be able to have meetings with between 2 and 5 people for 20 to 25 phone calls. I'm gonna get a lot of no's. I'm going to get some no pickups, but I want to be able to say, all right, if I contact 25 people, I know 2 to 5 of those people are going to be, what are we talking about, the timeline? I'm trying to figure out what timeline they're going to be at, right?
But at least you were meeting them regardless of what time,
yeah, you meet
because
with
you can make an introduction.
Yeah, you meet with them. Even to this day, I have renters that I've been talking to for 2 years, and they become buyers and they go under contract. For instance, my team leader, she gets a lot of referrals, and she said one of the people were talking to her about somebody that we need to talk to. But that person said, "I'm already talking to John. I've been talking to this person for 2 years, you know," and she's a renter now. She's going to close next month. So what you do is you just kind of have repetition, do it all the time. When you first start out, that's really the base you have to do. Make those phone calls every day that you plan to.
And let me, sorry for interrupting, let me ask you a question. What do you think the toughest people to call? Are they cold leads?
The toughest
What did you specialize in?
Well, I was getting a lot of Zillow leads, they were cold leads, and a lot of them were calling for rentals. So this is one thing to tell renters. They would call and say, "What about this property? I'm ready to rent it." I'm like, okay. A lot of them weren't educated. They don't know what we know. I said, okay, let me look at it. And especially because the rates are so low now, you can get a house for, you know, even though you might be paying more, your monthly payments are going to be low. And renters focus mostly on that, for monthly payments. They don't care about the price of the home. They think they do, but then you say, hey, and you get to learn exactly like, okay, what's the different monthly payments at these different price points, right? So the renter calls me, I'll say, "Hey, this is Jonathan, how are you doing?" They're like, "Hey, I'm calling for a rental about this property." Most of the time, buyers say, "Oh, we don't do rentals, we do sales," and they hang up the phone, right? Or they'll just try to get the person off. Make sure they get a good Zillow lead, because you know your team leaders want a good Zillow lead. So even they call for rental, make sure you be respectful to them. But what I'll do is like, "Yeah, okay, I'll look into it." I'm like, "Oh, you're looking for rental?" Like, "Yeah." So tell me, why are you looking for a rental? They're like, "You know, I'm thinking about getting another place. You know, my rent's gone up." So you never thought about buying a house? They're like, nah, I don't have the money to put down. Then you say, hey, you know you can get a house for little to no money down? And it sounds car salesy, but sometimes you might have to do that part in the beginning just to get them. I never knew about that. And then you need to know one of your team preferred vendors. You got to know which one is the one I can send the people that are beginning out that's going to take more time into it. Because like Thomas said, you don't need to be chasing people as much. You have other people that can help chase. Because believe me, if you have that one lender that's getting the lower end of the team's buyers, they want to move up. So they want to tell Marty, hey, look, I closed all these people for you. Hey, let's go there. So you need to find that one lender that you work with on the team, the preferred lender, that you know, like, this guy's my junkyard dog. He's going to do a lot of different things for me. And build relationships with them, right? So that's another thing you do. You just try to get past that, past the point. I'll tell you, the main thing is don't self-educate. Your whole job is to educate people on the market. Like Tom was talking about different neighborhoods and communities. When he was saying what he does with showing people homes, that's what you got to do. You got to take out the sales part and let them see you as being a human and as you being somebody that they would like to bring to an outing to meet other friends that would like to have a beer with and things like that. Because if you can do that, you're going to build that core. You're going to stop chasing leads and you're going to start becoming the person leads come to just for more business. I mean, right now, I get frustrated because I can't make as many phone calls as I used to because I have a lot of my sphere coming back to me with people that need to buy homes. And they say, you need to talk to John. He can get you somebody with, 3% down. It's kind of hard right now in certain areas, but you can still get people to become clients. Yeah.
How many phone calls you make every day? Or when you used to actually?
Oh, what I used to? I didn't count.
That's what I think they need to hear. How many phone calls have you made?
I didn't count my phone calls. I counted how many people I contacted, and I counted how many people wanted to meet with me. My goals, you always have to have your goals. You have to figure out, like, I would tell you, I would want to at least contact 20 to 25 people a day. Because you're going to have probably about maybe 5% buy a house over.
You mean conversation?
Yeah, 20 to 25 conversations a day. So when I say contact, a contact to me is either a phone call, text message, or email, and they reply to you. That's a contact. So if I can get 25 people to acknowledge that they heard from me today, that's a good day for me when I was first starting out. I got to get these people going. I got to get some things going. And to give you an idea, my first year, I sold 25 homes. And I will tell you, 75% of those homes I sold were all internet leads. And then I trained the people that listened to me when I was on the team. I trained them, and then they were able to stay the ones that actually did what I told them to do. So I would tell you, you grind out results. If I contact 25 people and all people say no, fine. But you're going to get at least you're going to get at least two people that say, yeah, I'll meet with you. Now, they might not meet with you today. They might meet with you next week. But that's somebody else you can put over to the side. Say, all right, this person needs to buy in 3 months or 6 months. And the thing you need to do is you learn more about them. Not just what they're looking for a house, but learn more about their personalities, like what they like to do. What I'll do is I'll talk to them and say, hey, you guys, are you married? Like, yeah, I'm married. Like, okay. And then you start asking them about, do you have any children? What do you like to do for fun? Because like Tom's the same, you're trying to figure out, like, what can I get to them emotionally that's going to make them want to purchase a house? Because most people that say they want to buy a house in like 6 months to a year, cut that in half. I just closed on a house yesterday. The guy told me he wanted to buy 4 months. And he told me he wanted to buy at the beginning of the year because his rent was up in March. And I got him under contract a month ago, and we closed yesterday. So what I would tell you is...
What you're saying is buyers have no idea what they want?
No, they
just take that as a baseline. You just take that as a baseline, but because of your professional, you know the area, you know your scripts, you can find that very quick. So I heard a couple of you talking on the phone, no names and no looks. And basically, you guys have taken literally about face value what buyers are telling you, right? Don't do that because they don't even know that. They have no idea. They have an idea in their mind because they don't know their options. I made a mistake, I'm sure you have too, when somebody told me looking in 6 months, Sure, I followed up with them. I think 3 months later, by the time I followed up with them, guess what they did? They were under contract, right? Poor me. No, not poor me. I made a mistake, listening exactly what they told me, because they didn't even know that.
And when you find out personal things about them, we was talking about, even if you call, you might not even call about the house. You might call about, like, I knew one guy, he was a big Patriots fan. I would call him every time the Patriots lost. I didn't like the Patriots. I would just joke around with him. But he saw me, he was like, yeah, all right, whatever, man, I'll get you next time. And then next thing you know, like, yeah, John just calls me just to call me, you know? Another thing I would do if I were you guys is put everybody you can on the collab center. Do you guys do that with MLS? Because you can see who logs in and what's their favorite. And when you see that activity, you're like, okay, this person's really looking. Let me give this person a call, just see how they're doing. So they might tell you, I'm looking 5 months, but if they got 10 homes favored, you're like, this guy got 10 homes favored. Let's say, let's go look at some homes, guys. Let's go look at some homes so you can get educated on the market, because, you know, this market moves real fast. And I want you guys to be prepared to pull the trigger when you are ready to make that move. Because what happens is when you take the people out and they say, I want to buy in 5 months, and you take them out in month 3 or 4, they're going to be hesitant to pull the trigger on a house that might be the perfect house for them. Take them out this week. Just say, I want you to see these neighborhoods. I want you to see these different areas. You know what they're going to do? They don't know. They're going to move up faster. They're going to say, I'm sick of living in an apartment, or I'm sick of living in this town, or I'm sick of living with my parents, or I hate this roommate. I'm ready to get my own place. And you're like, they will break their lease in a heartbeat. And you explain that to them, like, hey, have your lender talk about, if we close on this date, you have to make a house payment for 2 months. And guess what? When they thought they were going to pay 3 months of rent, they just got to pay 1 extra month of rent. They're like, I'll do that for this house. So yeah, I mean, it's just all about positioning yourself to be, like Thomas said, a source for them, and then just trying to figure out, like, how can I get this person to move faster? But you have to make the phone calls. And that's the whole idea. You have to make the phone calls. You were a brand new agent. I was making 5 years ago. I was making phone calls every single day. I was answering the internet leads at 7 o'clock at night. You know, I was answering those internet leads at 7, 8 o'clock at night because nobody else was.
So you're calling them when you at like.
I mean, there's an internet league. I know what it's like to be a buyer agent. I am done making phone calls today. It's 7:30. I'm going to watch this sporting game or whatever. And next thing you know, there's a lead that comes in like, I'm not answering it. I'm tired. I got 2 homes under contract. I don't need to do this. I would pick up like, hey, what's going on? Because I'm just sitting in front of my TV, or I'm just sitting in, you know, and I'll talk to them. And then you put them in your database and follow up the next day. And then guess what? You got somebody you talk to that nobody else talks to that night about a house, because they're calling about a house they saw on Zillow. And you're the only person to talk to them. And I have a lot of people tell me that. Like, I'm like, they said, John, you're the only agent to come out to see me when I told everybody else I'm buying in 5 or 6 months, and you came out to see me. Like, I've had anybody do that. I'm like, okay. And I'm going to build on to what he said. You know what the second thing I hear? I have called other agents, but nobody has called me back. Yeah, that happens. How is that even possible? That's a free lead. That's a lead that your team pays for. They spend thousands of dollars a month, and the team leaders are asking their coordinators, people on it, like, what's going on with these leads? Who's getting what? And then when they have an easy layup, they're going to say, you know what? Jackie was making phone calls and doing what she needs to do. I'm going to give her this $400,000 buyer. Because, I mean, to tell you guys the truth, we're all just, you know, we're all assets for the team, and they want to know which assets perform, which ones not. If they feel like this asset's really performing, I want to make sure they stay here. They're going to give you the good leads, or they're going to not give you. You earn the good leads. Oh, that's very by you working so hard. I mean, I came from, this is a great business to be in. I mean, I tell Thomas, like, I tell my mother, I said, I don't mind getting yelled at for a $5,000 or $4,000 paycheck. I hated getting yelled at, knowing that I was making $30, $25 an hour. Like, I am ready to get out of here. This is not worth my time. But if you yell at me over $5,000 or $6,000, all right, I'll take it. Because what other business can we make that amount of money? And one more thing, you know what everybody keeps saying about Jonathan? He's very analytical. Do you know why? He's analytical because he knows the numbers. Why? Because he knows the neighborhoods. Why? Because he studied them. Yeah. And he wanted to learn to give a better service. And that's somewhere
I'd like you guys to also think about. You need to be an asset to your clients, right? And he's a great, great asset to his buyers because his buyers love him. There's a reason why, because they can trust him, he has a knowledge. I mean, once somebody wants to know about numbers, remember what we talked about last week, where to find the numbers? Well, he knows the numbers, right? Yeah. Because if somebody asks, once again, I brought an example that I had a client of mine who is an atomic physicist, right? He wanted to know the numbers. As boring as it is, he went through every single one of them. You only have one, maybe. He bought a $600,000 house. So it's okay to have one extra sale a year, or 2 or 3, right? So make sure you're prepared. Please go ahead.
Just a quick question. For someone like an agent that's new to the area, and you've got all of these different, you got Cary, Raleigh, Forest, blah, blah, blah. How do you even, like, it's so overwhelming. How do you start to know the neighborhoods? Like, where do you begin?
What you do is, I mean, I know for me personally, I lived in Tennessee, and I will just look for things I like. Because, I mean, first thing you have to do is got to figure out things you like. You want to go to places where, like, okay, I like this because they can see you're passionate about something. Like, oh yeah, this is a great place. I take my dog, or this is a great place for coffee. Those different things. They go from there. So what I would tell you is, where do you focus on? What areas do you focus on? Everywhere. You're fine. So,
like, is there some place in the MLS that says like the neighborhoods, like the top neighborhoods?
So answer is yes, we're gonna get there.
Yeah. So
we're gonna get there. So sorry, I love Jonathan a lot, but he's here to talk about scripts.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna talk about neighborhoods at that some point. Yes.
Yeah. All right, I can help with that. Yeah. I get a lot of out-of-state people, so I know the different communities. So we'll talk about that later.
So what you're saying is you have a different script for people relocating.
Yeah. So what happens when you have someone locating from somewhere else, right? You ask them where they're coming from, right? And then you go from there. Like, for instance, if I get somebody from New York City versus upstate New York, I kind of know how to talk to them about the different areas. Like, because I'm like, okay, you're from where? I'm from Long Island. Okay. And then start going through that. You start talking about, like, I'll talk about, oh, Cary's just like Long Island. It's like, all my clients tell me that. They said, this is Long Island down south. But what you do is you ask them when they're from out of state, hey, why are you moving down here? Ask them questions. Why are you moving down here? Oh, okay. How'd you hear about the area? Something like that. And you kind of drill down. I mean, I can't go specifically because I was telling Thomas, the scripts are so much into me. I actually just kind of, I morphed them into my conversations. Right. So if somebody's from out of state, I learn more about them and try to figure out like what their activities are and focus on those areas that have those activities. Right. So if I know that they like to, if they're bikers, they like to do different things. I focus like, okay, what price point they're at. All right, these homes in these areas have access to Apex Trailway, falls in the News Trailway, things like that. If they're from the area and you kind of talk to them about different things, it's mostly just about them. You don't need to educate them on the different areas because they know the different areas.
You just want to find out what they like.
Yeah, you find out what they like because they don't know about the houses. So your job is to say, okay, what are you looking for? And that's when Tom was talking about like older homes, newer homes. You need to know like, okay, this person tell me they like this and this. What is the best old neighborhood, new neighborhood I can put this person in?
But also when you talk to them, you know what kind of house they're living because most likely somewhere in Long Island, guess what they're going to have? The number one request, anybody can, I know you know, number one request from Long Island, what people want, anybody from up north? A basement.
Or at least a split level.
Yeah, a basement, because their houses are also older, they're not new. Yeah. So once again, those are the things you need to know, and those are the things you need to think about. Yeah. So Jonathan, we are running out of time. Okay. I think you're freaking awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so much appreciate your time. That's okay. That's okay. So I'm going to build on what Jonathan said. You know what would be my second conversation with a person who actually comes from New York? What would be the another thing you would point out other than now you know they live in an older house, they have a basement? What is the other thing they're going to tell you? Because I kept hearing from people, oh, I only want to spend about $2,500 a month. So I'm looking for a house about $250,000, $250,000. And I'm starting to scratch my head, and it's like, holy crap, how did you come up with that? Well, not cost of living, taxes. Because apparently in Long Island, the taxes are triple what we have. How about if somebody you have from Miami with the same concept? Taxes are the same, so why would they say that? Anybody? What do we have in Miami a lot? Hurricanes. So guess what you have when you actually live in Miami? Hurricane insurance. And some of them are $1,000 a month. So if you can tell them that $1,000 a month is only $800 a year, what they're looking for, guess what? The price point just went up 200 grand. So those are the things that are important in my opinion. So, next slide, please. So scripts, right? A lot of people only talk about calling scripts, only. You need to call, and we're going to talk about scripts just a little bit. But did you know that you can have scripts for texting or email? Because sometimes when I get a lead at 9:30 and I had 2 glasses of wine, I'm not about to pick up the phone with my accent. I know that I just save everybody the trouble, right? But guess what I do? I text them, and guess what usually happens? I get the text back immediately, right? Because a lot of people don't want to call you either at 10 o'clock. Maybe they do, but there's a different response for text. Personable, right? But if you don't know the area, you don't know where they're moving from, what they want, how the heck are you going to respond to them? 900 questions? Probably not. So make sure you also think about scripts, right? For buyers, renters, relocation, whatever it is, right? So also you can have the same thing by email, because people also respond to emails, right? To make sure that your team leader can provide that to you, to make sure you personalize it for your own taste, because it is you they're going to do business with. So even if you have a phone call that may be a text and an email, make sure it's you who's sending them out. But if you keep calling people, and we're going to talk about it a little bit in more detail, make sure you follow the scripts to you, who you are, right? Because reading it, I heard some team members exercising scripts, and after 3 months, it was the same, with no results. Wonder why? Because that sounded awful. I would never buy a house from that person ever in my life. I would hang up the phone. But that person had never gotten either the training or the idea to practice and correct and repeat. If you keep doing the same thing with no results, it's most likely it's you. It's not the buyers. Maybe 10 of them, yes. But if you call 100 people, you get no appointments, or maybe one, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry, something wrong with what you're doing, right? So that's the reason it's important to have accountability. Let a team member sit beside you. Let them laugh their asses off. How stupid you were. Then you can talk about it. Take notes. Do the same thing in favor for the other person, right? Then you can discuss what you need to change. And then you get better at that. But if you're shy, if you don't want to make a phone calls, then probably real estate is not a good business for you. Sorry. So next one, please. Scripts. So everybody says, what is the most difficult script to practice or call? Anybody knows? And withdrawn. You know why? Because you're going to be the 20th person who call. So you better be pretty freaking good at what you do for them to even talk to you. Everybody knows the house expires. If you're picking up the phone, I see your house expired. Really? That's great. Right?
Where were you 6 months ago?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I have a buyer for you. So why did you not bring it when it was listed? Right? I mean, there's all kinds of BS. I have learned something, a very good saying from an ISA. And he said that sometimes he calls and say, by the way, why are you calling me? I have 6 people called me already. You know what his answer was? Oh my God, only 6? Only 6? I would have at least 30 people calling because your house is so awesome. What are you going to say to that? My house sucks? They're going to talk to you because you were different. So I want to make sure you know, just think outside of the box a little bit, because you're going to get a lot of objections. And I'm also going to talk about that later, how to overcome that, right? Best clients, right? They have scripts, cold calls, warm leads. You guys know what the difference between a cold call and a warm lead? You call them versus they call you. That's very simple. It actually just goes two different ways. But it's already a script for most of them, right? What about prospective sellers or buyers? Right? Somebody who indicated they want to buy a house, they're looking for advice. Or a seller maybe. I mean, I know most of your teams, you cannot list a house. But if they're calling you because their friend referred you to them, you need to be able to talk to them about listing a house. You cannot say, in my opinion, by the way, I'm going to have my team leader call you because I'm so scared and I have no clue. And my name is so-and-so, and hang up. They will never call you back. So you have to be able to talk to them and take some information and understand you're an expert, right, in their field. Then you can pass it on to a team leader. Maybe you're allowed to take a listing. I don't know. But I think it's a good idea for you to actually have that and practice that. So that is more. That is more. And since I only have about 2 minutes left, we're going to wrap up with this slide. Leads, we talked about already, cold and warm leads. Sphere of influence, right? Would you like to have a script to call your friends who you bought the houses from you, or you just know them? How about if some of you members of a PTA, civic group, right? Whatever that is, you think you have something to say about that. You think you should have a script according to whatever that person is a part of. In my opinion, yes. And you can combine that with a buyer script, seller script, whatever that might be. Renters, we touch base on renters. I think it's a wonderful thing to practice because renters, or there is a ton of renters, I think there are probably more renters than buyers, right? So if you look at my numbers, as Jonathan said, right, you can call 100 renters a day. You might have 5. In my opinion, it's a 10% rule. Every 10 person you call, you're going to have 1 lead out of it, in my opinion. So if you call 100 people, you're going to have 10 leads. 10. How about if you do it every single day and you get so good at it that now you have 100 and nobody's buying today? They're going to be 6 months out. Some going to forget you exist. Some going to move out of town. Some going to keep renting. Some going to go behind your back. Some just don't care to talk to you. So yeah, you have 25. Can anybody use 25 more sales? I can. So I want to make sure don't disregard people who are not ready to buy today. Relocation buyers. How you guys get relocation buyers, by the way? You guys remember my second slide, the third one? How you get that? Yeah, that's the easiest way. I mean, you can try to find them. Good luck with that, unless you live up north. But I do think if you have the relationship with other agents, it's a whole lot easier for them to refer business to you, right? To make sure you keep building and harvest the relationship. And when you talk about your database, those agents should be on your database. And you should talk to them every 3 to 6 months, not about business. Ask them how their children are, what they're doing, are they playing baseball, whatever it is. Out of sight, out of mind. So if you don't touch base with them, guess what? They're going to remember you. Also, just listed and just sold. Your teams have wonderful programs where you can dial 1 million people a day. Well, not quite, but what I'm saying is you can dial people in a database. You can actually see who lives in a neighborhood. Maybe you need to call them and letting them know that actually just listed a house, or you think about downsizing, upsizing, whatever that is. Maybe somebody going to say, not yet, but we think about selling next year. Where are you moving to? Right? Don't ask them how many bedrooms you got, and when you remodel that, who cares? You get to know them at some point, but make sure you do that. Because I am out of town, there is one thing I want to make sure that some of you have been in business for a long time, and it reminded me to do after I talked about your database. A long time ago, somebody told me in my office that they're going to write a letter of apology to their client. Anybody heard of that? Neither have I. So I will tell you what is a letter of apology to your past client. Not a new client, to your past client. You know what that is? I'm sorry I haven't been in touch with you over the years. I apologize, or whatever that is. Make sure they hear that from you. Not just I've forgotten you, but make sure you're giving me business because I'm the greatest. That is my expectation. I have failed at that. I realized I have 2 clients I forget to put on my database. Me, make mistakes. But I'm going to correct it. The question is not whether you make a mistake or not, is how you correct it and what you do after. None of us are perfect, right? But we have to be driven to be better every single day at what we do. So I think that was my 1 hour, a little bit more. So thank you all for coming. Just an FYI, we have a lot of pages to cover next time, plus more. I'm going to let you in a little secret. The next conversation we're going to have, it's about construction. So be prepared. It's going to be an in-depth construction conversation for knowledge. Now we try to bring some pictures to make sure you can also see and identify, because what I also heard from agents, they understand what exactly I'm saying, but they cannot visualize. It's the same thing when I tell somebody, look at the roof. It's just 20-year-old shingles versus an architectural shingle. They said, oh, this is great, but you don't see that, right? So how you know? So I'm going to try to find some pictures to show you what to look for in houses, wherever they are. It's important, right? So one of the first thing, and I'm finished, but one of the first thing we're going to talk about next week, are you ready? Write it down, is a skirt foundation. Skirt. A skirt foundation. You figure out what it is, then we're going to have a conversation about it. It's very prevalent in 1930s and 1940s. I gave you that word because it's not an exact word what a foundation is, but it's a skirt. If you're asking anybody, most people would know who actually sell older houses. We're going to talk about the pluses and minuses of different errors, different types of siding, construction, wiring, roofs, what to look for, what to suspect, right? So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed our third outing together. And go to work. Make some calls.